Habemus Papam, eminentissimum ac reverendissimum Dominum, Dominum Josephum, Sancte Romane Ecclesiae, Cardinalem Ratzinger.
Joseph Ratzinger was born on Holy Saturday of 1927 in Bavaria. The youngest of three children, Joseph and his brother Georg, were ordained to the priesthood on the same day in 1951. At the age of just 32, Joseph was made a professor of theology at Bonn University. In the early 1960s, he participated in the Vatican Council, serving as a theological consultant to the German Cardinal Joseph Frings. At this time, Ratzinger was thought of as one of the most liberal minds at the council, and cooperated with Hans Küng in trying to reform the church. But in the late 1960s, Ratzinger's views seemed to shift closer to the more traditional voices in the church, and it was around this time that he became good friends with the newly elected Pope John Paul II. He was created a cardinal in 1977. Towards the end of the century, Cardinal Ratzinger wished to retire from the public life and submitted his resignation as prefect of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith 3 times to the Pope. 3 times his request was rejected, and in 2005, Pope John Paul II died. As Dean of the College of Cardinals, Ratzinger presided over the funeral of the Pope. During the ceremony, members of the crowd shouted "Santo subito," Saint now, and sure enough, just 20 days after Benedict was elected as Pope, he initiated the beatification process for his predecessor.
Celebrare possit in nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
Pope Benedict's first foreign trip as pontiff was to his home country for the World Youth Day of 2005. This was attended by more than 1 million young people, amid concern that they would perceive the Pope to be too private and intellectual. But throughout the 3 World Youth Days the Pope attended, he proved to be popular with the younger generation and very willing to engage in dialogue. Whilst in Germany for the event, Pope Benedict visited a synagogue and met with various Jewish leaders.
Im 20. Jahrhundert hat dann in der dunkelsten Zeit.
He spoke out against the insane racist ideology of Nazism, calling the Second World War the darkest period of German history. This was to be one of many speeches by the Pope highlighting the evils of the Nazi occupation, including visits to Israel and to the Auschwitz concentration camp. Despite this, the media never lost interest in his membership of the Hitler Youth as a young teenager. Ratzinger's family was harassed during the war as his father was adamantly anti-Nazi. A young cousin of the future Pope, suffering with Down syndrome, was murdered under the eugenics scheme of the Nazis. It's no surprise, therefore, that Joseph refused to attend meetings of the Hitler Youth despite his obligatory membership. Benedict was a strong promoter of Christian unity, whilst refusing to compromise on Catholic doctrines. One such example was the Ordinariate, making it easier for groups of Anglicans to join the Roman Catholic Church, while still preserving elements of their spiritual and liturgical heritage. Within just 3 years, thousands of Anglicans all over the world had become Catholic. At the other end of the spectrum, the Pope enjoyed less success. Negotiations with the ultra-traditional Society of Pius X didn't come to fruition, and they remain outside the Church. This was a cause of great sadness for the Pope. However, much of his legacy lies in his writings about the liturgy. In his apostolic letter, Summorum Pontificum, he ensured that it would become far more acceptable for priests to celebrate the extraordinary form of the Mass, and he encouraged the reintroduction of solemn liturgical traditions. At the same time, Benedict tried to push the faith forward into the 21st century by encouraging Catholics to use social media and other resources to propagate their beliefs. This was part of the new evangelization, of which he often spoke, and his personal use of Twitter led the way. Everything Benedict did pointed to Christ, something reflected in his 3-part series of books on the life of Jesus. And it was from this deep relationship with Jesus that he said he found the strength to make one of the most momentous decisions of his papacy. On February the 11th, 2013, Benedict gave a speech that would truly make history.
We were there for a normal consistory meeting, and when we concluded that, we were about to get the blessing, and he said, "Please sit down, I have something to say, important for the church." So it was for us a surprise, like thunder that gives no notice that it's coming. As he moved on, from what he was saying as the introduction, I began to fear that that's what he would come to. The cardinals, each one looked at the other in silence, in surprise, but it was clear what he said.
The speech, given in Latin and with no previous leaks even hinting that he might resign, left the Catholic world in shock. But at the Pope's last Angelus, delivered from his study high up in the Vatican, he clarified his intentions.
Il Signore mi chiama, grazie. Il Signore mi chiama a salire sul monte, a dedicarmi ancora di più alla preghiera e alla meditazione. Ma questo non significa abbandonare la Chiesa. Anzi, se Dio mi chiede questo, è proprio perché io possa continuare a servirla con la stessa dedizione e lo stesso amore con cui ho cercato di farlo fino ad ora, ma in un modo più adatto alla mia età e alle mie forze.
On the 28th of February, his final day as Pope, Benedict gave a public farewell at his last audience to the hundreds of thousands gathered in St. Peter's Square.
Benedicat vos omnipotens Deus, Pater et Filius et Spiritus Sanctus.
Then he was flown off to Castel Gandolfo to be, as he himself put it, simply a pilgrim about to start his last journey on earth.